Metaphysical Report. I am Sabrina.
And I'm Steve Moreau.
I'm a psychic coach and healer.
And I am the astrological metaphysician.
Yes, and I'm the intuitive way shower. So we're here today. You know, our channel's all about metaphysics with a focus on astrology and numerology. Numerology being my forte and astrology being Steve's forte. And today we're going to talk about the May forecast.
Yes.
For you all.
Lots going down in May.
Yes.
Lots going down in May. I think we're going to look back and be like, wow, that was some heady times. So yeah, excited to talk about that.
Yeah, we're totally in interesting times, aren't we? Yes, the energy's been cray.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So first I thought we would go into my card pull of tarot and oracle cards for the month of May. Okay. So first what's come out is the Death card, okay? And the Hangman, yes. So we have Scorpio energy here, right? Scorpionic energy is all about, right, the mystery, the darkness, the scandals, the secrets, the illusionary stuff, and the depth, right? And so with this Death card, it's also about endings, right? Transformations leading to new beginnings. So with the Death card here for May, I mean, stuff's going down.
Yeah.
Stuff is going down.
So it could actually be the passing of some leaders.
It could.
Prominent people, you know.
Yeah.
That could be, but significant, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the theme of endings this month and transformation in May, and then we also have the Hangman, which is represented by Pisces, okay? So again, Pisces, the Neptunian energy, the illusionary energy,
yes.
Being sacrificial, right? Sacrificing parts of ourselves. The Hangman is also a period of inaction, right? It's a period of stillness to either come to more enlightenment, to come to clarity, but it is definitely a period of a pause. So we have this pause energy and this ending energy. So it looks like some things are going to be happening where we are going to be taking a pause. We are still in Mercury retrograde, right? We're in the middle of 2 eclipses right now when we're filming. And so there's going to be this sort of reset.
Yeah,
I want to say
that sounds about right. I think so. You know, it kind of fits in what we're going to be talking about, the astrology. So when you pull those cards, I was amazed. Like, oh wow, it just highlighted. Like, okay, yeah, we're definitely moving to some things.
Yeah, so it's going to be great. So then we also have the secrecy card. Okay, so again, Scorpionic, right? There are going to be secrets coming to light, right? The truth coming out here this month. Things that have been hidden are going to be coming into the light. And then we also have Hand of Cards. This card reminds me of House of Cards, right? The brilliant TV show, House of Cards, the political show. So definitely politics. There's going to be a lot of stuff with politics going on this month. And Hand of Cards is all about taking risks and maybe doing things that are risky. So again, coming out with all this truth coming into light, that definitely can be risky, right?
Okay.
Now we also have Market. And the Market card came out last month for April. So there is definitely stuff going on with the market, okay? And that can speak to the real estate market, the stock market.
Sure.
Definitely going to be some fluctuations there, some changes there.
Absolutely, I think so.
And then we have expression. So with all this sort of change energy, making sure that we're being our authentic self, we're expressing our truth, and we're allowing ourselves to have that creative time, right? It's so important. And then self-care for this month, for May, we have massage. Okay, so that touch, right? That nurturing, that caring, that human contact can be really helpful for us this month, as well as abundance planning. So again, there's that energy of the endings and then resetting. So in that resetting, really clarifying what our goals are going forward. Okay, so we just had Aries season, so the beginning of the astrological year. So if you haven't made a vision board with that abundance planning, I would definitely say, and with the endings, the reset, all that energy, I would say a vision board would be a great thing to do this month. whether that's old school collage or on your computer on Pinterest, definitely could be something that's useful for all of us.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, there's just so much going on this month, and then when you pull those cards, it just kind of highlighted like, oh, okay, yeah, we're moving into some things. And astrologically, when we were planning it and looking ahead, we were sitting together, and I was like, wait, there looks to be some pretty significant squares happening,
Yes.
squares and oppositions. So May starts off with a lunar eclipse.
Right.
Right, and so that's on the 5th
Yeah.
of May, and so that lunar eclipse, it's hitting, like in some prominent people's in their charts, like Biden, it's hitting that axis on his chart, some significant planets there. So there might be some news connected with Biden coming out this upcoming month, and even for the next several months afterwards. Sure. Right? So
yeah,
that's important to know for sure. So we kind of start with that eclipse, and then after that, several main highlights, but one of the main highlights is finally Jupiter will be moving into Taurus.
Woo woo!
Right? So finally, so it gets some movement, right? Jupiter, and it'll be there for a year, right? So the past couple years, between Pisces and Aries, it's been like 4 or 5 months here, and then move here for a month, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And what happens is when Jupiter, any planet, moves into a sign, especially when it stays there for so long, you get finally Jupiter is able to kind of give its full potential of what it can do in a chart. Mm-hmm. And Jupiter wants to give and speak to truth, prosperity, abundance, purposefulness, right? And so wherever it's in your chart, wherever Taurus is in your chart, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty significant for this next year.
Well, I have like 6 planets in Taurus.
I want to say yes. So all of that is going to be highlighted, and so the houses that those planets rule are going to get beneficial effects. So you can find solutions in those areas. Things get resolved. Inspirations connected to those things in your chart to those planets. So anytime it hits those, and from there, that's your 7th house. Right, yeah. It's house of business for you. It's going to aspect your 1st house. So this is almost like a renewal energy is coming up, and where you feel very purposeful, driven, and like, yes, I've been wanting to do this, and the road gets easier, right? Yeah. And the opportunities present themselves. Is what happens when you have Jupiter aspect very significant planets in the chart, and so you're going to get a lot of support in the things connected to those houses, the house rulers, and all those things. So and even what each significant planet represents in itself. So connected to Mercury, good for business, good for talking, good for publishing, all those things. So, there's a lot happening with that.
When is it going into Taurus?
So it moves into Taurus the 16th.
Okay.
For some people, the 17th, depending where they are. But 15th, 16th is when it moves into Taurus.
Okay.
So that's one. And then the next, not necessarily the next, but then, actually the next significant thing that happens is Mars will then be moving into Leo, right?
Okay.
And so it has more strength in it because it's been in debilitation, right, in Cancer, meaning it doesn't function very well. You tend to get more of the negative, aggressive side of Mars that's not functioning very well. But Mars is super aggressive in a negative sense, right?
Yeah.
But in Leo, it gets aggressive, but also in terms of taking action in a positive way towards achieving one's goals, things like that. So we're going to see more action-oriented. Now, they'll it's especially in the state of the geopolitics of the world, that's still an aggressive energy, right? It's fighting and all. So things can get initiated, right? If you will, then that we'll see that'll happen. But Mars is finally in a strong position, right? Yeah. And finally we feel like, okay, taking action in X, Y, and Z. Now, all this is still occurring while everything in May, Mercury is retrograde, right?
Right.
And so, we'll be taking action, but we may find things are still, the communication is lacking, mental errors, mental mistakes, these kind of traffic jams of our lives, technology glitches. Whack. Right, so there'll still be some level of frustration with that, but we will feel very excited about taking action and energized. Like, okay, let's do that. So that's Mars moving into Leo, and that one is happening the 20th. Right, so here you have the 16th
Right.
Jupiter, then the 20th, Mars moving into Leo.
Right.
Now, when that shift occurs, that's when probably the most important thing is happening for that whole month, and all these planets. So we want to line them up. Pluto will still be in 0 degrees of Aquarius. Well, Jupiter is moving to 0 degrees of Taurus, while Mars is moving 0 degrees of Leo. So this causes a square between Pluto and Jupiter. We're going to talk what that means. At the same time, there's a square between Jupiter is throwing a square between Pluto and Mars, right? And if that wasn't crazy enough, then we have a opposition between Pluto and Mars, all at 0 degrees, meaning they're all tight, right on top of each other. Right?
That sounds like a recipe for craziness.
It's a recipe for explosiveness. It's a recipe for frustrations. It's just sudden unexpected things can occur.
Yeah.
Really potentially things are on a knife's edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, for instance, square aspects in astrology are events that come about through difficulty, right? Mm-hmm. Things can still be resolved, right? Come to a positive conclusion, but it usually comes through difficulty, right? Mm-hmm. So difficulty is the operative word here. So it's never just smooth flowing, right?
Yeah.
It's trying to work something out, and so there's tension, quite a bit of tension. So anytime you have tension, that's a problem. So in this case, we have tension between Jupiter, what Jupiter things doing, what Plutonian things are doing, and Jupiter things are doing, and Mars things are doing.
Yeah.
Right? So the Pluto-Jupiter square, that's going to speak to, so Jupiter being the planet of abundance, prosperity, truthfulness, right? Truth and light and knowledge. Being squared by Pluto means Pluto is a planet of the underworld, secrecy. There's going to be some truths coming out, mm-hmm. right? Being revealed.
Which is exactly what the card said.
Which is exactly what the card was saying. And so that's why, so you pulled the cards just before we did our recording here, and I'd always look here, so that was just confirmation that, yes, there's going to be things revealed about past untruthfulness, if you will, right? And things coming to light, right? Of previous negative things that have been about. And we had seen that, right? Mm-hmm. And especially, remember, this is all occurring during Mercury retrograde.
Right.
And I found that retrograde tends to reveal things in general, right? Mm-hmm. Especially things from previous news cycles, if you will, right? So one of the things we talked about that we saw 2 days ago, saw that I think it was Chase Bank, one of the banks revealed, JP Morgan, revealed that there was more of a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, mm-hmm. Very infamous scandal, right? And people have been wondering, how was this man able to get on with all his sexual abuse and all the negative things that he had been a part of,
right? And
now it comes to light that the bank actually had more of a knowledge of his financial dealings and misdealings, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a big one. That's huge for that to come out. There are some other ones as well. Let's see. Oh, interestingly enough, BuzzFeed, which was the internet news site, mm-hmm. is filing for bankruptcy, right? So that's huge news that's coming out, right? That just occurred as well. And on the vaccine front, the COVID front, now the monovalent, the single previous vaccine has been unauthorized now, right? Mm. They are now pushing the bivalent, the two ones, but there was still information coming out about that. But what's happening with the new vaccine is that they're giving a much lower dosage than the previous has been. And what's happening out in the news is people are saying, oh, well, we have new science now that confirms that it doesn't protect you for transmission. You can still transmit it.
Yeah. So
why were they pushing all of this? Get the shot. Even though many people have been saying prior to that, but the CDC and these officials are relying on, oh, well, we have new information, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we know what this narrative is about. This is that manipulation. Again, Pluto, things that were being done in secret coming out, right? The, squaring Jupiter, squaring the truth, mm-hmm. not being truthful, right? Yeah. And so now that truth is being revealed, right? And the credibility of the CDC and all these FDAs, all that, you know, for someone like myself, never had much credibility to me to begin with, but it's being exposed to the whole world to see
in a bigger way.
Right? And that's what's going to be happening here.
So you saying that the vaccine was unauthorized, is that saying that they're no longer promoting it?
Well, they're not promoting the one that people used to
the
original one that came out in 2021, right? And the dosing schedule, again, you need 2 doses,
right?
But, you know, that whole thing, and then boosters, right? Because they then found out, right? They've unauthorized those, right? So they're saying,
like, just kidding.
Nope, you don't need that anymore. Now, what they're saying is, oh, well, we have this other one, right? That's what they're what they're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
So, because actually they now have, but it weakens the mandate that they've been trying to push, right?
Of course,
it weakens
100%.
And so hopefully these college students that are still being mandated in a lot of places, you know, to take it, it hopefully will weaken that, because we do know that, and what's coming out as well are the vaccine injuries, right?
Yeah.
That have, and all the sudden deaths, sudden and unexpectedly. I mean, that word is all over, right?
Yeah.
And so there's never been this level of sudden unexpected deaths in people under 50, right? Ever, right? And all within there's been a spiking what is called excess mortality, meaning there's always a certain amount of death that's going to occur, but this is above and beyond, and there's always a percentage that's been acceptable, or at least considered the norm. And for countries, the US, England, right, all the countries that really were pushing the vaccine, Israel, there are these excess mortality rates that are really through the roofs. Australia is another one.
Through the roof.
And this is through their own evidence, right? This is not us anecdotal, even though there is anecdotal evidence, but we're actually seeing it mirrored out in the real world with actual statistics. And again, Pluto, the god of death, rebirth, the underworld. So these things that were being done in secret, causing the deaths of people sudden, unexpectedly, is coming out.
Right.
So that's a big part of what is happening in this month. So and remember, that's just a Pluto Jupiter square.
Right. That's
just one piece of this puzzle. That's happening with this transit, right? So now we have this other part of the transit where we have Jupiter squaring Mars, right?
Right.
And so again, Jupiter, planet of truthfulness, purposefulness, right, righteousness in the world, being squared by Mars. This is that Mars, when it does that, this is wrong action, right? Taking the wrong action based on you wanting to, you know, over exuberance in action. So there could be some over enthusiastic action, you know, that people shouldn't be taking, right? So I would say, I would definitely caution people to just be cautious in terms of taking some actions, particularly this month, particularly around that time period.
Right.
We may seen people overstepping their bounds, right? Being super enthusiastic and then, whoops, doing excess at that point, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big part of that. Jupiter representing money, that could be taking financial risks that were probably not warranted at that time as well, right?
Okay.
Now, part of that would be difficult to pull back from, because you know, it's in a fire sign, so Mars is in a sign where it wants to take action. Let's do this, because think about it. Mars has been in Gemini for a while. They then went to the debilitation for for a bit, right? Yeah. And now it's finally free. Yeah. And now it's getting hit by these squares, right? So I think it's gonna be hard for people not to jump in with both feet, right? And curb that enthusiasm, if you will. And that's what was gonna cause, you know, this over enthusiastic nature that's happening. Okay. So now we round it out with what? We have a Pluto Mars opposition. Now that is probably, to be quite honest with you, the one that's probably the scariest out of all of that, right? Okay. Just that by itself can be, right? So oppositions are contentious, right? That's if you're battling someone else, right? And is there anything in the world that represents geopolitics or battles, wars? Yeah, we have a war happening, right? Yeah. And so we can see an uptick in that. We can see not just in Ukraine, as we know, but really around the world. Right now, people don't know, there's actually kind of a civil war going on in Sudan, right? Between the government, not even rival, but the same government army is fighting like the army is fighting the Marines, if you will, right?
Okay.
So they're on the same side, but they're wanting power. These power brokers in the government of Sudan, they're fighting amongst each other, the same military, right? So things like that is what we're seeing with that opposition, right? Pluto, secrecy, underhandedness, hidden things, death, right? With Mars, the planet of battle, warriors, aggression, right? So battling for your opinions and your wills, opposing wills, that kind of thing. That's a very explosive combination, right? So we can see an uptick in violence based on that itself. Sudden, almost like an explosion. There could be, weather-wise, earthquakes potentially, volcanoes, little explosions, right? So we can expect that. So put all that together, right?
Throw all that in a fishbowl.
Put all that in a fishbowl, right? All this is occurring anywhere from the time Mars is around the 20th, right? So it's going to be around 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21, right? So basically, around the 20th, on 3 or 4 days on either side of that. So the week of the 20th in May will be really just, I'm looking at here. So that actually goes, that's a weekend, by the way. So basically, the third week in May, and that goes, the 18th is a Thursday, right? The 20th and the 21st is on a Sunday. So that goes, so that weekend is going to be pretty, and then leading up to the Monday. Now, as it relates to markets, right? This is what we pulled up on the cards. In the markets, that looks to be pretty shaky in terms of, you never want to say financial crash, like, oh my God, the world is ending, but definitely in the very unstable financial markets, right? People are going to really need to know what they're doing then, to put their positions in and be aware that, things are going to shift under their feet, like, they haven't in a while. So there could be some major market highs or lows, could really be lows, right? But it's going to be a shock to the system around that time. And so I've been telling people, hey, have your finances in order and be aware, don't take any undue risk around that time, those type of things, right? So there's going to be some major news that comes out around that time, for sure. As it relates to the United States chart, this square and opposition and T-square and all those type of things, it's happening in the United States 6th house. So the houses involve health, 6th house, 3rd house, news, right? The media, right? And then the 9th house, law, structure, the law. So kind of like Congress, people that make the laws, those type of things. We tend to think of it as our government, but the specific aspect of government is legal, right? That's what the 9th house represents. 9th house represents foreign countries. Our interaction with foreign countries, religion, philosophy. So there could be some sectarian violence around religious beliefs, right? In other states that like a theocracy, say Iran, right? Places like that where there could be some more draconian measures by the religious aspects of those countries, right? But political unrest, religious political unrest, could definitely be a big part of that equation. In the United States, it could just, that religious aspects could just be, almost like a revival, if you will. Like there's going to be this really big upsurge in religious feeling and religion and faith. Faith is going to come to the forefront, and a conflict with that, right? It could be something, as we know, abortion debate is really big right now. Again, that type of aspect could be there. But it does revolve around 6th house, health and healing, right? Now, also, it could be political leaders being ill, right? We mentioned about having the death card. It could be the passing of one or more political leaders of significance, right? I know we were talking before that we know that Jimmy Carter was in hospice like a couple months ago. He's still around, and that's amazing, right? It could be something as significant as that, right? But it could be, I feel that this is almost seismic, right? So this is something that shocks the system, correct? So who knows what that actually will be, but it definitely is something like, oh wow, okay, this changes things, right? And I'm never one to kind of say, oh, world is ending, but it will be significant, right?
Sure.
It'll be significant, and
some shocks to the system this month.
Absolutely. So.
And with the health, that could also be just more health stuff coming to the forefront.
Yes, being revealed.
Yeah.
Vaccine,
totally.
That's the whole thing with the pandemic.
Health challenges.
More challenges. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
The part about the third house, I think we talked about it before. There's that BuzzFeed. They went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Right. What's really happening is that Pluto in Aquarius is going to shift media in such a way. I was actually just looking today, and I saw that late night TV, which has been like a main bedrock in TV, has lost 41% of its ad revenue in the last 2-3 years.
Wow.
Right? This was even before COVID, like things like, and so whereas they were making 800 million, whatever, the number I was seeing was something like something like 400 million, right? So anyway, the actual number in the thing was 41% drop in revenue, right? Because it's being restructured. There's streaming services. There's more competition for those eyeballs. What we do here, podcasts, right? People are consuming media differently, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so that's a big part. Now that's going to continue, right? That whole thing with media is going to continue easily for the next 20 years generally, right? But the specific about 2028, we're going to see a restructuring. So there's going to be a lot of fallout, media-wise, right? Media-wise, Mercury, that also represents technology. I just saw that companies laying off even more people. I can't, Amazon, laying more people.
A lot of the tech companies.
A lot of tech companies. Yeah, there was more. There was one just yesterday I saw. I was like, oh, I didn't know they were letting people go. So
the AI, the robots are already taking over.
Correct. Right. So how are we working with that? So this is a big part. So something is coming around that time. So please pay attention around that, and whatever kind of self-care, calming things to just not lose your head around what may be happening in the third week of May.
Any lightning strikes that happen.
Correct.
You're prepared now.
Be prepared now. I mean, I think that's a safe thing to assume.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you. So, but yeah, it's gonna be pretty explosive. Anytime you have Mars involved, Pluto involved, and there are squares and oppositions.
Yeah.
So think of it like this: the one that takes the brunt of it is that Jupiter gets a square from both of those planets.
Right.
So truth and positivity and optimism are at an all-time low during that time period. Morale is going to be low around that time.
Yeah.
And so it speaks to a particular event.
Right.
Or a series of events
right.
that bring that morale low, gets us feeling down.
Sure.
In the United States chart, it's 6th house things.
Yeah.
Right. Health, healing, and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
well, looking at the numerology for this month, May. So May itself is the 5th month, right? So universally, it's a 5-month, which is all about change.
Okay.
Unexpected change.
Okay.
Transformation, right? It also, 5 also speaks of freedom and independence as well. Okay. So again, there can be some shifting of some power as well.
Okay.
Sure. And then if we're looking at it like the US number for May, so universally, again, a 5, but if we're looking at the US chart, right, we're in an 8-year right now, the USA is, so then May would then be a 4-month.
Oh, of course.
Okay, 4.
Yeah.
So going back to that 4 energy, the foundation, right? 4 talks about strong work ethic and working hard and discipline, but also dealing with a lot of limitations.
Obstacles, delays, things like that.
Totally delays.
Okay.
And it's actually adds up to a 13. Funny enough, because we've already talked about that in another video. So there is some karma this month, right? And that 13, is the lack of work ethic, Okay, so there's some karma of being lazy. Okay, is coming into focus, which again, there's so much going on this month, but again, people will feel that need to put in a lot of effort.
Okay, because the effort had not been expended before.
Exactly.
So things were easy before. They were taking it easy before.
Totally.
So what that makes me think of is, so we've been, in terms of the financial markets, you know, the Fed has been having easy money for so long.
Yes.
Now it's like raising these rates up, and that's causing a lot of pain, and you know, with credit and, you know, mortgages, things like that. So it looks like the era of easy money is is gone. That might be a shock to the system. It's dwindling. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so it's a great month for work and growth, but again, you can feel really limited. So patience is really going to come in strong, and then also that communication piece. So just making sure that you're allotting time to really express yourself and be creative. And what's funny enough, well, this is in the human design. I guess I'll just jump into that too. So human design for the month, we have a lot of gates going on. Okay.
So what are gates?
So gates are the different channels, because human design also incorporates astrology. So sort of like you're talking about the planets, in human design, it's more about it's equivalent to the gates. Okay. So what's going on in the gates? So we have a lot of gates highlighted this month. So we have 2, 24, 61, 27, 3, 23, 8, 20, 16. So we have a lot going on. And one aspect that's come out of it that sort of Steve just spoke about was there's sort of an energy of melancholy.
Oh, okay.
Melancholy
like
during this month. Yeah, so again, going down to back to that low morale. So this is about really making sure that we're on the right trajectory. So that can mean changing direction in our life. This is going to be a huge kind of like eye-opening month for everyone, you know? And there's also with that Mercury retrograde, it's the returning, right? It's the reviewing.
Got it.
Okay, what has happened, what has been before. And with that melancholy and the returning and the reviewing and the reflection can also lead to some addictional behavior, you know? Now we also have one of the gates is about the truth coming out. So again, it's just all, you know, aligning. And again, really needing that self-care and really looking at where we're putting our energy, where we're putting our resources, including money, just like Steve talked about, right? And this is going to be endings and new beginnings, okay? And some chaos going on this month too. So again, it just aligns with what we've already said with the cards and with the astrology.
It does. It's almost like, you know, a couple scenarios, right? The war in Ukraine steps up. You know, the OPEC countries have tightened oil. Oil prices are kind of going up. That's inflationary, right? That shock to the system can maybe potentially shock it even more and send us into inflation that's uncontrollable, and right. So there's some kind of shocking event that occurs around that time that is almost a catalyst for things kind of moving, you know, getting chaotic and, you know, out of control. So we definitely speak to that.
And when we break down May, so the letters in May, because all letters correlate with a number, it comes to a 3. So there's going to be a big media focus as well. So that can be the catalyst that the truth comes out through the media and changes with media. That's
really making a lot of sense. Again, Mercury is highlighted here, right? We're being in this retrograde. Mercury is news. Mercury is media. And then especially concerning things previous times, stories coming back and look at this, and my goodness, you know, shocking and waking people up. So that's not unexpected here.
Right.
There's going to be some stuff happening. So again, this occurring in the United States chart, I went and looked at to see certain things. Let's see, there's a Sun-Uranus conjunction in the U.S. chart. This speaks to the Sun represents a government leadership, right? And so things with Uranus happen suddenly, unexpectedly, right? So that there could be some health issues of a leader or leaders, right? Or even just the government itself is feeling under the weather, if
Yeah.
you will, like it maybe in its ability to respond to whatever's occurring.
Okay.
You know, that's definitely
Mm-hmm.
one way of kind of looking at that. The other thing that I was considering too was the economics could stem from some real estate. You're right. So you know that real estate sector could be problematic.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like that was kind of coming up here as well. Let's see if there's any other things along those lines. Yeah. So again, getting back to Biden, the reason we keep talking about it because in his chart, the Pluto is also squaring his moon, and so that's pretty significant. Again, Pluto, the planet of death, rebirth, secrecy, the
Mm-hmm.
underworld, right? That kind of really scorpionic theme, causing a square, a difficult situation to his moon, his emotional state, right?
Yeah.
In Vedic astrology, we consider the moon another stand-in for the person themselves, right?
Yeah.
But more the emotional state. So just chaotic emotions for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly things being revealed about from his past, right? Could also be
Okay.
part of the news story that occurs during this time.
Right.
One of the things that was happening just earlier this week, as we're filming this, was that Hunter Biden story is coming back out again because there is a IRS agent who is seeking whistleblower status.
Yeah.
And what that means is he's going to Congress and saying he has potential explosive information, but if he revealed it by himself, he could stand to go to jail because
Right.
the information he has is like tax returns, which you can't release.
Yeah.
So he wants the protection of that, so not to be retaliated, but also, he
Mm-hmm.
has this information.
Right.
And it had to do with the fact that he felt pressured, and he had reported before of preferential treatment for Biden's son Hunter,
Mm-hmm.
as relates to the tax investigation into his financial dealings, right?
Sure.
So that could be the stress that he's under as
Yeah.
well, you see.
Definitely.
So
adding
it
to
speaks to all that, but the theme is secrecy, things that were
Yeah.
buried coming up, right, being exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And even just that movement coming up, that's explosive. That could
Yes.
literally be a volcano, right? It
Yeah,
could be a political
excavation.
volcano, excavation. Yeah.
Yes.
So these are all the themes. We don't know what exactly, right?
Right.
But we're talking to the astrological weather,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks pretty,
So maybe a volcano erupts.
Volcano erupts politically, actually. Who knows? Let's pay attention to that, right?
Right. Yeah.
That could be a big part of what we're seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is a lot what's happening in May. That's that's the main thing in May here. That's what makes it so. It's a shift. We're having finally Jupiter moving into Taurus. So let's just speak about that itself. So we've had a lot of changes happening in Taurus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Taurus is the natural second house of the chart. The second house is finances, money, resources,
Right.
Jupiter going in there, Jupiter expands. So this could be an expansion of the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be inflationary, right?
Right.
So that speaks to that. The bull, food prices could go up,
Yeah.
right? So there could be food insecurity, famines, and that could be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
The same way when Uranus went in there, and all of a sudden we started seeing prices of meats and some
Mm-hmm.
staple goods go up, food prices go up, which they
Right.
have been, right?
Yeah.
Jupiter going in that house, that could happen even more so now,
Mm.
right? So it definitely speaks inflationary, right?
Right.
That's definitely the theme. But at the same time, there's opportunity for money to be made because Jupiter in the second house is expansion of money, right?
Right.
So it could be, there's definitely opportunities there as well. But it looks like it's going to be pressuring prices for sure. The price is not going down; it looks like they're going up.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, right?
Right.
That's a financial pressure that that's going to cause a lot of hardship. I was reading again recently that in the world there was in the Middle East, in Egypt, they just finished the Ramadan ended this week,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was problems getting some food there,
Oh.
right?
Okay.
So this is being set up, right? So
Yeah.
again, this is a worldwide event,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think we're definitely gonna see some things around food insecurity, for sure, gonna be connected as part of all that. Yeah.
Is that involving the world point too?
Well, okay, perfectly bring that up. So the world point is Mars in, excuse me. Actually, no. None of these are world points. These are all fixed signs. So world points would be in the fixed signs would be 15 degrees.
Right.
So when Mars goes 15 degrees in Leo, that's gonna be significant. These are all significant just because they're all hitting the same degree point.
Yeah.
In that case, but we're looking. We'll see some major things happen when it hits 15 degrees, and we'll see that will be later on. That's probably be like June. You know, so when we do our June forecast, we're going to be looking for those 15 degrees hits.
Got it.
Right, and then
that's soon, real soon.
It's going to be soon. Yeah, there'll be some other things, and some of it will be some of the same things we talked about. But there's not going to be like necessarily a specific aspect at 15 degrees with all these planets yet. But there'll be some aspect that'll be significant. There's definitely going to be a square. So basically, what we're talking about here is. We're looking for square aspects. So Jupiter with Mars, that could be there's a square aspect, but I think that's the only aspect it makes. I don't think Mars will be. So, there'll be an aspect between Jupiter and Mars other than that early degree.
Right.
Now the other thing to speak about as well about early degrees, these are all happening at 0 degrees. So very beginning part of the sign.
Yeah.
In Vedic astrology and even Western, but Vedic particularly, we consider those very weak degrees, meaning unstable. Okay, so just that by itself means an unstable situation because that energy hasn't fully established itself.
Right. And
so it's kind of like wobbly. And so the problem is Mars wobbly is like someone waving a gun, right? Yeah. That's a problem, right? Someone with, like gasoline and fire just playing with it, right? It's a very unstable situation. That's with Mars. Pluto, the same thing, right? Jupiter, you're gonna have some instability, but it's still Jupiter, right?
Yeah.
I don't want Mars playing with a loaded gun,
right?
So that's what makes this situation even more unstable. Is happening at a very unstable point with very problematic planets, right? And so we're going to see something, And so I really, for our viewers, the idea here is to be prepared and just mark that time as at times will be more reflective and have balancing time. Quiet time, self-care time around that time. Just mark it on your calendar because look at you have Mercury retrograde, you have all that stuff. Now, interestingly enough, Mercury will be coming out of. We should probably speak. Yeah. Mercury will be coming out of retrograde the 16th, if you will, right?
Same week.
That same week, but again, it's I want to see exactly. Yeah, it comes out it goes out of retrograde on the 15th, right? So again, that week, you're right, leading up to that week, Mercury goes out of retrograde, but it's still not moving very fast.
Right, it's in the shadow
period. It's in the shadow period.
Right.
It really picks up speed the 31st of, basically Memorial Day for us if you're in the U.S. That's really when it moves up. So Mercury's still going to be part of this picture of it not fully being really strong and still in shadow period. So still expect glitches and the typical Mercury retrograde things happening. It's not, we're not out of the woods by any stretch of imagination. So that whole week, 15th all the way to the 21st, 22nd, I would expect, to be honest with you, like the markets the end of the week of that week, right, and then the beginning of the week, which is the 23rd. Those are going to be some pretty significant days market-wise.
Sure.
There's going to be some pretty significant market-wise days. So those of you who do trading, heads up. Definitely get your stop losses so you're not losing. All that's going to be super important.
Maybe take a vacation that week.
It might just be good time to take a vacation. Yes, it might be real, and I think that's what it is in general. That week, chill out.
Totally.
Unplug possibly.
Yeah, nature.
Get out in nature. Whatever is your chill out thing to do. Yeah. This is the time to do it in. Yeah.
Definitely. And so we should both be going to the beach.
Yes, I would agree.
Awesome. Anything else we need to talk about?
I think that's it. Those are the main ones. That's the feature of May.
Yeah. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed our May forecast.
Yes.
And we'd love to hear your comments about what you think about what we said and things that have been going on in your life regarding the themes that we talked about. And if you please like our video, that really helps our channel. And if you dig our vibe, we would love a subscribe.
Absolutely. Right down here.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. So if you'd like to book private readings with us, we also do duo readings together. just love our vibe and you want us to both be a part of it, all that info is in the description box below where you guys can book some private readings with us. And yeah, so we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye.